Welcome back to Horrible, the show that is similar to a bear in that apparently it needed to hibernate for a while. But no time for any of that, let's get right into the vid. Whoa, hold on. What are you doing in my shot? And is that my shirt? You can't just rev right into the video and not tell everybody where the hell you've been. I really don't think anybody cares, man. Listen, you have very few loyal viewers and you owe them an explanation as to why you've been Ghostface for months on end. Okay, I'll address my accidental absence. And put on the damn hat. We can't afford to be buying props and no payoff. I'm not gonna do that, man. We just did the hat on a beanie joke last video. Put on the hat and say the thing. Okay. Yeehaw. This counts as my intro gag, right? Okay, so I know it's been a while and, you know, my bad. I've really just been working a whole bunch and unfortunately have just had difficulty finding time to make content, much to my dismay. Hell, there was like a 2-week gap from filming that intro to me actually filming this video. And if you haven't noticed, we actually have a new member of the squad. Say what up to Frederick. But I have been working on ways to improve the channel and overall just try to improve the quality of the videos I put out. One of those ways is, I think we need some background music going. Hey. This video will also be the debut of a new series, Horror or Bull. The subject of the inaugural edition of Horror or Bull, the franchise that rarely knows what to do with itself. That's right, strap on the cut off faces of your dead loved ones, it's...
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's 2022, because there's 2 other ones with the same name. It opens with a true crime style documentary video, and its main purpose is just basically to let you know that Sally Harsty's character is still alive, but it also rehashes the happenings of the original.
In the summer of 1973, a few miles outside of Austin, Texas, 5 youths were attacked in a grisly and gruesome fashion by an unidentified madman.
This movie's name must be Stanley Yelnats, because it's already digging itself a hole. This opening gets a double bull. A duck bull. The 2004 remake did the style of intro exponentially better, and if you're gonna rehash old ideas, you better improve upon them. Also, it basically just announces, hey yeah, we copied Halloween 2018's homework and just changed it a little bit. But the voiceover is done by John Larroquette, who reprises his narrator role for the first time since the sequel to the remake? Anyways, horror. We're then introduced to our main character, White Cheddar Cheez-Its, Lila, played by Elsie Fisher. Being a big fan of Bo Burnham, I'm actually familiar with Elsie, and I think she absolutely killed it in 8th grade. I mean the movie, I never saw her report cards or anything. Anyways, this casting, horror. Lila goes to pay unaware of the exclusive deal they have going on. Buy one thematic item that will be useful later in the movie and get yourself a free exposition dump. It turns out Sally Harsty became a Texas Ranger. Whoa, no, not that kind. Her ERA would be through the roof. Yeah, that's much better. Sally searched for Leather for decades to no avail.
He was wearing a mask.
Or maybe she's just really bad at looking. Word on the street is she's never found Waldo not once. Lila's sister Melody then insults the dick size of a stranger with a gun.
Who has such a small dick they need to walk around in public with a fucking gun?
Ma'am, you're in Texas? Don't do that.
Big no-no! Big no!
And this actually ends up seeming sort of out of character for Melody given the rest of the movie, but come to find out that Lila was a survivor of a school shooting and this was her sister's way of making her feel less awkward? Listen, if I were to give a bull for every time these characters made illogical choices, I never finish this video. So let's just give the movie 3 bulls for bad decision making and move along. Yes, I'm making these rules up on the fly. So Harlow is basically a ghost town and they bought the town. They bought part of the town. Other people are on their way to bid on parts of the town and try to create some pretentious paradise in the middle of nowhere. Listen, if I were to sit here and give a bull for every time the story made no sense, I'd never finish this video. Let's just give it 3 bulls for a nonsensical plot and move along. I do think if they change one major detail about this movie, it fixes a lot of the plot issues. Stick around to the end of the video to find out what that detail is. And that in the biz is what we call a tease. The crew finds out that the Texas stereotype they've been insulting this whole time is actually a side character they're gonna have to interact with. I actually think Richter's one of the better, more enjoyable characters in the movie, but dude still looks like he did all of Thor's stunt double work. We meet this iteration of Leatherface, and apparently he's been hiding in an orphanage this entire time that the local police are very familiar with, in a really small town close enough to the events of the first movie that the local gas station sells Chainsaw Massacre murder merch. And Sally couldn't find him.
He was wearing a mask.
I will, however, take this time to give this movie its rightful horror because the cinematography is great and I really do enjoy the small town setting, even if it's completely illogical as to why we're there. The old lady that owned the orphanage dies on the way to the hospital and then the fun begins. This first kill is great. It's brutal, it's graphic, it's creative, and yet it's simple enough to where you're kind of surprised that you haven't seen it in a movie before. Horror. I'm breezing past a lot of the story and a lot of the character stuff because there's just not really much there. But I do, however, love this sitcom-esque shot of Lila coming out of the bathroom with a lung dart. Check back in on Leather, and I think this is actually one of the best scenes in the movie. One thing the Texas Chainsaw franchise is set up to do well that it typically does do well is have extremely scary scenes in broad daylight, and this is another great example of that. I like how the sunflowers add to the unsettling setting, and the scene does a great job of being disturbing while also building up suspense. And despite the fact that Leather kind of looks like the pig from Saw let itself go, and despite the fact that Ruth's death was kind of underwhelming and she kind of didn't really need to be there in the first place, still gets a horror, because this is by far the most Texas Chainsaw this movie feels at any point. Then we finally get to meet our legacy character who's definitely not shoehorned into this movie whatsoever, and you know she's a badass because she answers the radio by last name only.
Mrs. Hardesty.
Leather gets back home and, as per usual, there's young people pulling a B&E in his place of residence. Great reflection shot in the pot right before Leather chops Dante's top. I mean, it's more like his face, but you know, just let me have my chop top joke, okay?
I love that.
Horror. Leather gets all purdy and then gives us a call out to the original with this look out the window and then decides, you know what? Fuck them kids. Not totally sure why he hid his chainsaw on the wall like some bank robbery loot, but you know.
Do your thing, cuz.
Richter finds a near-death Dante and finally realizing something's wrong decides he's gonna go be the hero. I can be your hero, baby. Richter's then forced to join the Cool Kids Corpse Club and it's another excellent kill. A gruesome leg break, an environmental neck stab, and a hammer bashing that would make Triple H spit water all over himself. Horror. Seeing Melody hiding under the bed, Richter drops the car keys he confiscated, like this is the Friday the 13th game or something, even though he clearly should have given them back right before he went into the clearly dangerous scenario. Gotta give this movie a horror for this awesome body reveal, even though this scene's clearly just to logic out how Sally knows where to go for the end of the movie. Melody's ninja skills need a little bit of work because she gets blapped right on through these stairs like she was part of the Wet Bandits or some shit. It leads to a fun little chainsaw chase scene through the floor and ends when Leather cuts through a pipe and Melody gets covered in some kind of chocolate?
Chocolate? This is doo-doo, baby! I said, ah!
Oh god, oh, that's terrible. Oh, is that horror? Is that bull? Oh god, he gets one of each. The sisters get back on the bus with everybody else, but Leather stops them from going very far, and this leads to, by far, my favorite scene in the whole movie. I love the blue lighting, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't genuinely have a burst of laughter when everyone simultaneously pulled out their phones. Now, I actually think the "do anything you're canceled, bro" line really works here, especially knowing he's about to shred that flesh. Horror. The idea of the situation alone is absolutely terrifying, and the movie does a great job delivering on that claustrophobic feel and some super solid kills. Horror. For all of this movie's faults, you know, you gotta give it credit for one thing. I feel like this is truly the first time in this franchise that we've gotten an actual on-screen massacre like this. Horror. Although, not saving your thematic useful item for the finale fight? Bull. Sally shows up and, like a psycho, locks the sisters in her car. For me, the entire Sally Hardesty experience in this movie gets a bull. Her inclusion just feels extremely forced, and as does the performance. No offense to Olwen No offense to Olwen, she just clearly wasn't given much to work with. It is hilarious when Leather hits Sally with the "new face, who dis?"
You don't remember me.
Apparently Sally thought it was hilarious too. The two OGs have a good old-fashioned ghost town showdown, even though it ends up looking more like a Mortal Kombat fight.
Leatherface wins.
gut-ripping end for the Sally Hardesty character. I'm sure after that, there's no way she's gonna have a last-burst effort to save someone. Oh, come on! Bull! I do, however, very much enjoy the abandoned old movie theater setting for the finale fight. Horror. Also, Werewolves of the Alamo 2 sounds dope! The original is an undeniable classic. Right as Lila's about to get got, by God, that's Melody's music! Here's where they should have used the chainsaw corkscrew. Leather could have gotten her around in a little chokehold, and she stabs him in the neck with it, a la the Friday the 13th game, considering those same devs are the ones making the Texas Chainsaw game that's coming out soon. Either way, after a couple of pumps of lead from Lila, Melody finishes the battle with an awesome chainsaw uppercut. More like a chinsaw. I'm gonna go stick my head in a hornet's nest. Melody's a badass and by far my favorite character in this movie. I really enjoyed the performance by Sarah Yarkin. The sisters take off in a self-driving car, forever scarred, but grateful to be alive. Ah, what the fuck? A great last-minute kill that I didn't see coming, and of course, a Leatherface dance. That last scene gives this movie one last horror for the road. And that allows Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 to sneak by with 14 horrors to a very lenient 13 bulls. Which I think is pretty fitting. And you know, I gotta cut the filmmakers some slack because this project went through development hell and they still managed to make an entertaining horror movie. That being said, I really don't feel like this is a good Texas Chainsaw movie though. And that brings me to my one major detail change. This is a sequel to the wrong movie. I think we gloss over a lot more of these issues if they had actually just made this a direct sequel to 2005's House of Wax. The extremely small town setting is super similar to that of House of Wax, and it would have made that movie theater scene not only a callback, but a cool, interesting update to the setting, seeing as no one's been taking care of it for all these years. I also think it makes a little more sense to have all these people coming in trying to invest in property, as there's an actual draw to the outside world and a reason for all these people to want to make this little community. Lastly, I think it would have been really fun to kind of play with the question and expectation on whether or not Richter is one of the brothers. And that concludes the inaugural edition of Horror or Bull. Let me know what you think of this review format, and I'd love to hear your opinions on TCM 2022 and if it would be better suited as a sequel to a different movie. Also, you know, do all the YouTube stuff and help the channel grow or whatever. So until next time, which let's hope is less than 6 months from now, I'm your host Longo. And let's also hope that Netflix does not greenlight sequels to this movie, because that would be